So we learned late this evening that Speaker Sheldon Silver is bringing back the millionaire's tax. It is something that the governor and the Senate Republicans have said is not an option, but that the Assembly Speaker promised he would not give up even after it was left out of the budget. And that is just one of the topics that our insiders are here to weigh in on. Joining me now is Bruce Jory. He worked for 2 Democratic governors. He's now a consultant for Corning Place Consulting and also an adjunct professor at UAlbany. And we also have Dave Catalfamo. He served as communications director for Governor Pataki, and he's currently a partner at Capital Public Strategies. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Liz.
And it's good that we have you in separate rooms because now you can really just fight. Duke it right out there, guys. Okay. That's what I want to see. So let's start with the millionaire's tax. This is not a surprise because I think that the Speaker made it pretty clear that he was going to do this. Again, he's looking for that $1 million threshold. And Dave, let's start with you. If I'm not mistaken, you think this idea is not going anywhere?
It's a distraction. It's a diversion. It's meant to draw attention to the issue on a day when a lot of school districts are taking very tough votes. So I think politically it's an interesting move and one designed to focus the attention with respect to his base, but I think ultimately at the end of the day it doesn't mean anything.
And Bruce?
I don't really disagree. You know, I haven't lobbied for 4 years and I'm not a lobbyist anymore, but one of the things I really learned when I was lobbying was legislative leaders tend to do things for a reason, and it's usually either for their conference or to set up their next move. So when something appears to be inexplicable, or you know, and I don't think David's wrong. I think it'll be easily and quickly dismissed by Senator Skelos and the governor. But it sets up Speaker Silver to make his big pitch on this for the next budget cycle. So should we dismiss it now? Probably. I don't disagree with David's handicapping given how strongly the other 2 leaders feel about it, but is it an important marker? Because now you can't say their millionaire's tax begins at $250,000 and it really hits the middle class. Now they're putting forward a straight and true millionaire's tax.
Which we knew. I mean, that is also something that we saw during the budget negotiations, although it's interesting because the timing is curious. We don't have any indication that the budget, which was just passed, you know, relatively earlier on time, depending on how you want to think about it, that it's out of whack in any way. I mean, this would be a great thing to do if you thought that we needed revenue, but because the governor and the legislative leaders say that they actually closed that $10 billion budget gap, it doesn't really make much sense in terms of timing, unless you're right, Dave, in which case it has something to do with the school budget votes.
You know, on the other hand, and David's probably right, but on the other hand, we saw yesterday in California, Governor Brown announced that there was so much more revenue that it actually has cut their deficit dramatically, although they still have a chronic deficit in California. But you almost wonder, does the Assembly expect revenue numbers to come in higher in New York, and that would have precluded him making this chess move for next year, whereas today, tied to the school vote, he could. I don't know. It's pure speculation on my part.
I got to tell you, Bruce, what's coming out of California right now, no one's paying attention to budget numbers. I think they've got a little bit of a sex scandal with their former governor.
I suspect you're right, and I was avoiding that.
Okay, well, not speaking of sex scandals, which we thankfully have none to report to you this evening, let us talk instead about something that is sort of the opposite of that, which would be marriage. Dave, today we saw Mayor Bloomberg, New York City mayor, of course, up at the Capitol lobbying with the New York City Speaker, Christine Quinn. She is the first openly gay speaker, lesbian speaker of the council. Mayor Bloomberg has said that he will give extra support to anyone who votes yes. Will this be something that the Senate Republicans will hear? He did give $900,000 to their campaign committee to help them win that majority back.
No. And in fact, you know, I mean, in reality, you know, Mayor Bloomberg's record in Albany for the last several years has been not great, so his batting average isn't terrific to begin with. But more importantly, I think, you know, what's happened is that the Conservative Party and Mike Long have made marriage equality a litmus test issue in order to get their line. And I think that, more than anything, the marriage equality issue has essentially replaced the choice issue as the social issue that's dominated the Conservative Party. And while I don't necessarily personally agree with it, and I think that you can be a good conservative on a lot of issues that matter, and I don't believe in single issues dominating any party, the reality is that Chairman Long and the Conservatives have made that an issue, and for a lot of Republicans throughout the state who need that line in order to run and be successful, this will be an important issue to them.
Bruce, go ahead.
I don't disagree with that analysis, except that I would say this. I don't think Mayor Bloomberg is going to drive this issue, but I think the polling data and the movement of public opinion. And last week, you guys, in conjunction with Marist and your sister station, New York One, released a Marist poll on this, and I think it was misinterpreted. The polling data was sound. The interpretation, not you, Liz, but others in the media gave, was off. What was fascinating is even with the option of civil union in the mix, a scant majority supported gay marriage straight out, even with that third option, even though that third option is not on the table because it's not there. But interestingly, in the suburbs, only 8% of suburban voters in that poll said that there should be no recognition of same-sex couples. So that is a meltdown of opposition in the suburbs, and I think while David is right that the Conservative Party has great sway, at some point, unless the Republicans want to face a real and true political peril in the suburbs, they are going to have to find a way to find senators who are not beholden or who do not agree with the Conservative Party on this issue, to find a way to pass this and get this off the table. The other story that was out there was that a large number of very wealthy, prominent Republican donors who are good, true Republicans, and on the supply side, are saying we want Republicans to get off of this gay marriage issue and support it, and they're putting big money into the campaign with the implicit. They haven't said this, that they can become big political givers for or against people depending on this issue. So this is a very touchy, tricky issue for the Republican conference.
It is, but on the flip side of that, there was an article last week in the New York Times where the gay lobby was essentially being touted as President Obama's #1 donor. So I think if I'm looking at, the Republican conference and the future of Republican politics in the state, I'm not necessarily sure I'm going to count on that lobby as being able to deliver for me going forward in the future. And I think it's one of the many problems that the lobby has with respect to executing their plan to win marriage equality. I think that it's been inconsistent from the point of view of trotting out celebrities. I mean, who is Anna Wintour to some individual in Syracuse, New York?
Hey, there are Vogue readers in Syracuse, New York. There are some very fashion-forward people out there, Dave. Don't say nasty things about upstaters.
David, you keep throwing up Lady Gaga and Anna Wintour, but I am telling you, when you look at that number in the suburbs, and only 8% of people in the suburbs think that same-sex couples are not entitled to legal rights, that is a problem for Republicans. And
but they don't have intensity,
what those
Bruce.
Republican donors are saying is, don't get lost on an issue where demographically the state and the country is moving against us. Get back to those money issues and fiscal issues and tax issues where we're strong. I mean, you can't argue that the trend line has moved from 40% supporting gay marriage to just shy of 60% in this state over the last decade. And that trend line is accelerating, not decelerating. So at some point you got to get rid of the issue or you're going to face a real problem as a party.
And that's why, though, I would agree with Senator Libous, who said, and I believe he said on this show, Liz, that he thinks that the issue should come to the floor for a vote. I think it's a deeply personal issue. I think a lot of people's beliefs are grounded in their religious beliefs, and so I think that that's fine. But I don't think that it's going to be a deciding issue so far as how the next election turns at all.
Okay, and just to wrap this one up here, I mean, in terms of coming to the floor, the governor himself said that he does not want to see the bill come to the floor to fail again, because that really just puts the brakes on it. Yet again, remember in 2009, it failed pretty significantly. So, look, we just don't know at this point. I don't want to run out of time because I do want to talk about the 26th congressional district. This is a really fascinating race. You're getting a lot of attention now from national donors, from national pollsters, national reporters. Is it appropriate to look at this race of a harbinger of what might be coming down the pike in the 2012 effort to, for example, for the Democrats to win back the House?
No.
Okay, why not?
Go ahead. I'll let you explain. I'm sorry.
No, because of the third-party candidate in the race out there. Jack Davis is a millionaire who spent I don't know how much money yet and he's somebody who's run for office out there in that district several times, and he is essentially, basically throwing, I think, our analysis of the race off, because we're not quite sure where he's drawing votes from, but we assume he's drawing from, the Tea Party and the disaffected voter, which obviously we saw turn out very heavily for Carl Palladino in both the primary and the general election.
Sure.
So I think a combination of that, along with the DCCC and the Hochul campaign eroding independent support for Corwin, who is a fabulous candidate and a great candidate, I think at the end of the day we can't take a real hard measure of that, because most races around the country aren't going to have three well-funded candidates.
Go ahead, Bruce.
Can I disagree? Two things it shows: that the Medicare issue cuts against the Republicans, because the Republicans have had no persuasive answer to Hochul's charge on that, and Corwin's been on the defensive. So that's one. Two, I do agree with David. Not every race will be a three-way race, but here's what it shows. The Republican Party can no longer contain and control the energy of the Tea Party.
But Jack Davis isn't a Republican.
Excuse me, it cost them at least 3 seats in the Senate last year, in Delaware, in Nevada, in Colorado. And now you have somebody, whether you think he's a Tea Party conservative or you think he's just...
Well, he did used to be a Democrat.
That's right, but he began as a Republican, and he has a rather cantankerous, not liberal policy. But what it shows is he's drawing votes from Tea Party supporters.
Okay.
So whatever he is, and what it shows is, President Kennedy once said, beware of riding the back of the tiger, you may wind up inside. Well, the Republican Party rode the back of the Tea Party in 2010, and they're not going to be able to control it. And now let's nationalize this.
Bro, no, you can't, Bruce, because unfortunately we're going to run out of time.
Okay.
However, let me just ask you to do this. Call it, would you please? Call that race. Who's going to win?
I think Hochul has a great chance to win based on the enthusiasm gap that's now cutting for the Dems against the Republicans on Medicare. But it's a very tough, tight contest. I don't know whether the turnout's going to be 13% or 25%. But I'll say I think Hochul will win narrowly.
Okay, Dave.
Corwin wins because voters get educated that Davis is a hoax.
Get educated in the next week. Okay, we shall see. It would help if they came on the show. Just saying.
Yes,
all right.
it would.
Anyway, I want to thank you very much, Dave Catalfamo. Thank you, and Bruce
Thank you,
Joy.
Liz.
Thanks. It's great talking to you guys.
Thank you so much.